Liam and Noah were two brothers who lived in a quiet town surrounded by rolling green hills and small winding rivers. Life for them had always been simple. Liam worked as a carpenter, repairing old furniture and building new pieces for the villagers, while Noah ran a small bookstore in the town center. Their days were ordinary, filled with work, small chores, and evening walks along the riverbank. They had never expected anything unusual to happen in their lives. One bright morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows of their small apartment, a letter arrived. It was sealed with an unusual wax emblem they did not recognize. Liam picked it up, turning it over in his hands. Noah leaned closer. "It's from a lawyer," Liam said, examining the envelope. "I don't know anyone who uses wax seals anymore." Noah raised his eyebrows. "Maybe it's one of those promotional letters?" Liam shook his head and carefully opened the letter. Inside, the message was formal, but its content surprised them both. Their distant uncle, a man they had barely known, had passed away. He had left them a church that had been in his family for generations. "A church?" Noah asked, almost laughing. "Are we supposed to be priests now?" Liam ignored the joke, reading the letter carefully. The church, the lawyer explained, had long been abandoned and was in a state of disrepair. But legally, it belonged to them. There was a small piece of land with it and a few old relics that had been kept inside. The news felt strange. Neither brother had any experience with buildings, especially not churches, and yet here was an unexpected inheritance that had somehow fallen into their hands. They spoke quietly about it for hours that morning. Liam was curious and excited, imagining the church as a piece of history waiting to be explored. Noah was more cautious, thinking about the costs and work needed to manage such a property. Finally, they decided to visit the church. The journey was long, along a winding road that climbed into the hills. As they approached the location, their hearts skipped a beat. The church appeared far from the town, standing alone in a small clearing surrounded by overgrown grass and wildflowers. Its roof was partly collapsed, and the bell tower leaned to one side. Windows were broken, and ivy climbed along the stone walls, wrapping the building as though nature itself wanted to claim it. "This is bigger than I imagined," Liam said softly. He felt a strange excitement mixed with a little fear. Noah frowned. "It looks like no one has been here for years. Are we sure we can even enter safely?" The brothers parked their car at the edge of the clearing. As they walked up the cracked stone path, small birds flew out from the trees, startled by their sudden presence. The heavy wooden doors creaked loudly as Liam pushed one open. Dust floated into the sunlight, forming golden rays that danced across the floor. Inside, the church smelled of age, wood, and earth. The pews were scattered and broken in places, and the altar was worn and faded. Paintings on the walls had lost their colors, and the stone floor was covered in dirt and small weeds growing through the cracks. Despite all this, Liam and Noah felt something magical about the place. It was quiet, yet it almost seemed alive. This place. "It feels like it's waiting," Liam said. He stepped further inside, touching the cold stone walls. His fingers traced the shapes of faded carvings, and he could almost imagine the church as it once was, full of life and voices singing in unison. Noah was more cautious. "It's beautiful in its own way, but it's also dangerous. Look at the ceiling, parts of it could fall at any moment. And the floor looks weak in some places." The brothers explored slowly. They moved broken pews and stepped carefully over fallen wood and rubble. They noticed the stained glass windows, though most of the glass was missing or cracked. Sunlight streamed through the openings, casting colored patterns on the dusty floor. Each corner they explored revealed more details of the church's history. Faded letters carved into the wood, small statues tucked into the walls. and old candles that had long been used were scattered around Dot as the afternoon light grew softer. Liam suggested they rest in a small room at the back of the church. It seemed safer, with solid walls and a closed door. The room was empty, except for a small table and a few wooden chairs, but it felt strangely comforting. "We could stay here for a while," Liam said, "just to get a better feel for the place." Noah nodded reluctantly. "I suppose one night won't hurt, but we need to be careful. This building could fall apart if we're not careful." They set up a small area with blankets and a lantern. As night fell, the wind blew through the broken windows, making the building groan and creak. The brothers listened quietly, feeling the weight of history pressing around them. Even though the church was in ruins, it held an energy that neither of them could explain. It felt as if the walls remembered everything that had happened there. That night, as Liam drifted off to sleep, he imagined the church full of people, villagers singing, children laughing, the bells ringing from the tower. Noah, lying on his side, thought about all the work they would need to do to restore the building. Yet, even with the worry, there was a sense of wonder that neither could deny. Morning arrived with a golden light spilling through the broken windows. Liam and Noah woke early, filled with a mix of anticipation and curiosity. They had survived the first night, and the church, though old and broken, still stood. Something told them that their journey with this inheritance was only beginning. After breakfast, they explored more thoroughly. Liam's eyes caught a slight difference in the floor near the altar. The stone looked slightly raised compared to the surrounding floor. He tapped it lightly with his hand and felt a hollow sound. "Noah, come look at this," he called. Noah joined him, crouching down to inspect the area. "That's odd," he said. "It does sound hollow. Maybe there's something underneath." The thought excited Liam. He loved solving puzzles, and the idea that the church might be hiding a secret thrilled him. Noah, ever cautious, hesitated. "We should be careful. We don't know what's down there." Together, they decided to investigate carefully. They lifted the wooden panel covering the floor, revealing a narrow staircase that led down into darkness. A cool, earthy smell rose from below, and small cobwebs hung from the ceiling. Liam switched on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. They descended slowly, the steps creaking under their weight. The air grew colder, and the stone walls seemed older and heavier with each step. Finally, they reached the bottom and discovered a hidden room. The space was small but filled with objects of every kind. Dust-covered books rested on shelves, delicate jars sat on tables, and intricately carved statues lined the walls. The brothers were silent, taking in the sight. Each item seemed carefully preserved, as though someone had hidden them on purpose, leaving them untouched for decades. Liam picked up a small statue of an angel, tracing the careful details with his fingers. Noah found a book with beautiful handwritten notes and opened it. The pages were filled with stories, songs, and letters from the past. They realized that the church had been hiding something remarkable, a room full of history and memories waiting to be discovered. For hours, they explored the space, each discovery more fascinating than the last. Liam and Noah felt as though they had stepped into another world, one that had existed quietly for many years. The church, broken and abandoned, had a story that was theirs to uncover. By evening, the brothers decided to head back upstairs. The hidden room would wait for another day, but their excitement and curiosity could not be contained. They felt a sense of responsibility to protect and understand the treasures they had found. This church, this forgotten place, was no longer just an old building. It was alive with history, and they were now part of its story. As night fell again, the wind moaned through the broken windows, and the brothers lay in their small room, thinking about what they had discovered. They knew that this inheritance was not just a property. It was a mystery, a connection to the past, and a chance to bring life back to something that had been forgotten. For Liam and Noah, the journey had just begun, and they were ready to explore every corner of the church, uncovering its secrets one by one. The morning sun filtered through the broken windows of the old church, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Liam and Noah woke early, still thinking about the mysterious staircase they had discovered the night before. Both brothers were filled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This hidden room beneath the church felt like a secret world, waiting for them to explore. After a simple breakfast of bread and tea, they decided to return to the staircase. Liam carried a flashlight, while Noah brought a small backpack to collect anything they might find useful. They descended carefully, the stone steps creaking under their weight. The air grew cooler as they went deeper, and the faint smell of earth and dust filled their noses. When they reached the bottom, the hidden room greeted them in quiet splendor. Dust hung in the air like tiny particles of gold, and the shelves, tables, and walls were lined with objects that seemed almost magical in their stillness. Books of all sizes were stacked neatly, some with faded leather covers, others wrapped in cloth. Small statues of angels, saints, and villagers lined the shelves, each carved with care and attention to detail. There were glass jars filled with unknown powders, dried flowers, and tiny trinkets that had been carefully preserved. Liam's eye shone as he picked up a book and ran his fingers over the delicate pages. The handwriting was beautiful and precise. It told stories of villagers who had lived centuries ago, describing their celebrations, daily routines, and even their dreams. Noah wandered toward a table where small boxes were carefully arranged. Opening one, he found a collection of coins and medallions, each with symbols and designs he did not recognize. "This place is incredible," Liam whispered, unable to hide his awe. "It's like stepping into a time capsule. Everything here tells a story." Noah nodded, but he was already thinking practically. "We need to be careful. Some of these items could be fragile. We should make a record of everything before touching too much." They spent hours exploring the room, moving slowly to avoid damaging anything. Liam found letters tied with ribbons, written long ago by people who had once attended the church. Each letter told a small story of a child's first school day, a family's harvest celebration, or a couple's wedding. Noah discovered books filled with songs and prayers, most of them never published or seen by anyone outside the village. As they worked, the brothers began to notice a pattern. The objects seemed to have been carefully organized, almost as if someone had wanted a future visitor to find them. Some statues were placed in groups that suggested a story, while jars and boxes were labeled with small handwritten notes. It was clear that the person who had hidden these items had cared deeply for them and had wanted them preserved. "This is more than just a collection," Liam said thoughtfully. "It's like someone wanted to pass down memories, lessons, and feelings from the past." Noah looked around, his eyes landing on an old map hanging on the wall. It was faded and torn at the edges, but it clearly showed the town as it had been 100 years ago. Streets that no longer existed were marked, as well as buildings that had since been replaced. "Look at this," he said, pointing. "So much of the town we know today wasn't here back then." "This map is a piece of history." Liam leaned closer. "It's amazing. We can see how the town grew, how the people lived. This hidden room is like a bridge to the past." The brothers continued to explore. Liam found a small wooden box hidden beneath a pile of old cloth. Inside were delicate carvings of animals, each one painted with bright colors that had survived the years. Noah discovered a stack of journals written by villagers who had worked in the church. They wrote about their daily lives, their hopes for the future, and the way the church had been the center of their community. "This is priceless," Liam said quietly. "Not in money, but in history and memory. These are the real treasures." Noah smiled. "I agree. And we have to make sure we protect it. We can't let these stories get lost again." As the day passed, the brothers noticed something else about the room. Despite being underground and hidden for so many years, the space seemed peaceful and calm. The air was cool but not unpleasant, and the dust, though present, seemed to float gently rather than settle heavily. Liam and Noah felt as though the room itself had been waiting for someone to return, someone who would understand and care for it in the afternoon. Liam picked up a small statue of an angel and held it in his hands. The figure was carved from wood and painted in soft colors, its wings delicate and its expression serene. "It feels like it's watching over us," he said. Noah chuckled. "Maybe it is. Maybe all of these items are here to guide us." The brothers worked methodically, documenting each object and its location. They took photographs, wrote notes, and carefully handled the fragile items. As they cataloged the collection, they realized that this room was not only a treasure trove of history, but also a guide to understanding the lives of the people who had once called this town home. Later, they found a small sealed envelope tucked behind one of the shelves. Liam carefully opened it, revealing a handwritten note. "For those who care to remember, this room holds our history and our dreams. Treat it with respect." Noah read the note aloud, his voice soft. "It's a message from the past." They wanted someone to find this room and appreciate it. Liam nodded, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. We are the ones they were waiting for. We have to take care of this place and make sure these stories are shared. For the rest of the day, the brothers explored the room even further. They found more books, more statues, and even small toys and objects that had belonged to children. Each item told a story, and each story connected them more deeply to the church and its history. Liam and Noah began to understand that this hidden room was not just a collection of objects. It was a record of life, love, and community. As evening approached, the brothers returned to the main floor of the church. The sunlight was fading, casting long shadows across the pews and the stone floor. They stood quietly for a moment, looking around at the old walls and broken windows. The church, which had seemed so empty and abandoned just the day before, now felt alive with history and memory. Noah spoke first. "We have found something very special here. Not just items, but the stories of people who came before us. And now it's our turn to protect and share them." Liam smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and wonder. Yes, this church may have been abandoned, but it's not empty. It's full of life, if we know where to look. The brothers spent the night in the small room at the back of the church, but their thoughts were not on sleep. They were thinking about the hidden room and all that it contained. Each relic, each book, each note was a puzzle piece of the past, and they felt determined to understand and preserve them all. Before falling asleep, Liam whispered, "Tomorrow, we start organizing everything properly. We have a lot to do, but I think this church has chosen us for a reason." Noah nodded in agreement, closing his eyes with a sense of purpose. The church had been silent for so long, but now, with the brothers' discovery, it had a new story to tell, a story of history, memory, and the bond between the past and the present. That night, as the wind rustled through the broken windows and the stars shone above, Liam and Noah felt that they had stepped into something extraordinary. The hidden room beneath the collapsed church was more than a secret. It was a gift, a connection to generations who had lived, dreamed, and hoped in that small town. And now, the brothers were part of that story, ready to uncover more and share it with the world. The hidden room beneath the church had become a place of fascination for Liam and Noah. Every day, they returned to study its contents, discovering more about the people who had lived in their town long before them. It was as if the room held not just objects, but voices, memories, and dreams waiting to be heard. On a bright morning, Liam opened one of the oldest books he had found. The pages were delicate, yellowed with age, and filled with elegant handwriting. Each entry seemed to capture a moment in time, a festival, a wedding, or a simple gathering of friends and family in the church. The words painted vivid pictures of life in the past, of people working hard, celebrating together, and supporting one another in difficult times. Noah, meanwhile, had discovered a collection of letters tied with ribbons. The letters were from villagers, some addressed to friends and family, others written as reflections of their daily lives. One letter described a harvest festival in vivid detail, children running through the fields, the smell of fresh bread baking in the ovens, and the sound of music echoing from the church. Another letter told the story of a teacher who had guided children with patience and care, teaching them not only reading and writing but also kindness and respect. "These letters are incredible," Liam said, reading aloud one passage. "They tell us how people lived, how they cared for each other, and how the church was part of their daily lives." Noah nodded. "It's amazing how much history we can find in these words. They show a side of our town we never knew existed." As the brothers explored further, they began to notice connections between the objects in the room and the letters and books they were reading. Small statues seemed to represent the people mentioned in the letters. Musical instruments, carefully stored, matched the festivals described in the books. Even jars of dried herbs and flowers reflected the seasonal celebrations and rituals. It was as if the room had been arranged to tell a story, each item placed intentionally to preserve the memory of its use and significance. Liam picked up a small carved figure of a shepherd, its eyes gentle and kind. He traced the figure with his finger, imagining the person it represented. "These objects are not just things," he said. "They are stories. Each one tells us something about the people who once cared for this church." Noah walked over to a shelf filled with glass jars. Inside were carefully preserved flowers, seeds, and small pieces of fabric. Each jar had a tiny label written in neat handwriting. "Look at this," he said. They labeled everything so that anyone who found it later would understand its meaning. They wanted these memories to survive. The brothers spent hours examining every corner of the hidden room. They discovered journals from villagers who had served in the church for decades. One journal belonged to a woman named Clara, who had spent her life teaching children in the church. Her entries were full of warmth and care. She described preparing lessons for the children, organizing festivals, and helping families in need. Clara's words were filled with hope and compassion, and Liam and Noah felt a deep connection to her life and her dedication. Another journal belonged to a man named Thomas, who had been the church caretaker. His writings included practical details, how he repaired the roof, cleaned the floors, and preserved the relics. But there were also personal reflections describing his pride in maintaining the church and his love for the community. He wrote about the joy of hearing the bell ring during weddings and the satisfaction of seeing children learn and grow under the church's guidance. These journals show us that the people who came before us were not so different from us, Liam said. They loved their work, cared for their community, and wanted to leave something meaningful behind. Noah nodded thoughtfully. And they planned carefully. Every object, every letter, every note, they wanted someone in the future to understand and appreciate it all. That's why this room exists. They were thinking about us, in a way. As the days passed, the brothers became more curious about the town's history. They studied an old map they had found in the room, tracing the streets and buildings that had existed 100 years ago. Some houses were no longer there, replaced by modern buildings, but the church remained a constant, even in the map. It was clear that the church had been a center of life for generations, a place where memories were made and preserved. One afternoon, while examining a small box, Liam discovered a set of wooden figures representing villagers. Each figure was painted carefully, with unique clothing and expressions. Noah noticed that some of the figures matched descriptions in the letters and books. It's like a miniature version of the town, he said. These people are frozen in time, but they still tell us their stories. The brothers realized that the hidden room was more than a collection of objects. It was a carefully preserved record of life, culture, and community. Every item had meaning, and together they painted a vivid picture of a town that had thrived long ago. As they continued exploring, they found small, sealed envelopes hidden among the books. Each envelope contained messages from the past. Some were simple notes, reminding villagers to care for one another, while others contained poems, reflections, and hopes for the future. Liam and Noah read each message carefully, understanding the depth of thought and love that had gone into preserving them. These people wanted to be remembered. Liam said softly, they wanted their lives and their work to matter, even many years later. And now, we get to see it. Noah smiled. It's a responsibility, but also a gift. We can learn so much from them. And we can make sure their stories are shared, not forgotten. The brothers spent weeks cataloging the items, writing detailed notes, and carefully handling the delicate objects. They created a system for preserving the relics, ensuring that nothing would be damaged or lost. As they worked, they felt a growing connection to the people who had left the room behind. The letters, journals, and objects gave them insight into the hopes, fears, and daily lives of generations past. One evening, Liam found a small, intricately carved box hidden behind a stack of books. Inside was a delicate necklace, its pendant shaped like a tiny heart. Attached to it was a note, "For the kind and caring, who will see the value of our lives and stories. Take it as a token of trust and remembrance." Noah looked at the necklace, then at Liam. They really wanted someone to understand and protect this room. They trusted us to continue their legacy. Liam nodded, placing the necklace gently in his bag. We will. We have to. This hidden room is not just history. It's a responsibility. And it's also a treasure of life lessons, showing us how people lived with care, love, and hope. The brothers sat quietly for a while, absorbing the atmosphere of the room. The sunlight from the small window above the staircase created soft patterns on the floor. Dust swirled gently in the light, making the space seem magical. Liam and Noah realized that this hidden room had been preserved not only to protect objects, but also to preserve the feelings, memories, and spirit of the people who had lived there. As night fell, the brothers returned to their small room upstairs in the church. They were tired from the day's exploration, but their hearts were full. They had uncovered so many stories, and each one had deepened their appreciation for the past. They knew that the church had been more than a building. It was a living record of generations, waiting for someone to understand and care for it. Before falling asleep, Liam whispered, "Tomorrow, we continue. There is still so much to discover, and I feel like the room will keep revealing more secrets to us." Noah nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known before. We are part of this story now, and we will honor it. The past and present can meet here, and we are lucky to witness it. That night, the old church stood silent, but beneath it, the hidden room held centuries of life, love, and memory. And for the first time in many years, someone had come to see it, to touch it gently, and to understand the treasures it contained. The stories of the past were alive again, ready to inspire a new generation, and Liam and Noah were determined to be their guardians. The hidden room beneath the church had changed everything for Liam and Noah. They had spent weeks discovering its relics and reading letters, journals, and old books. Each day, they felt more connected to the people who had lived in the town long ago. They understood now that the room was not just a collection of objects, but a story of community, care, and hope. Yet the brothers knew that such treasures could not remain hidden forever. One morning, Liam suggested they contact Mrs. Clark, the town's local historian. She was known for her knowledge of history and had always been curious about old buildings and artifacts. Noah agreed, thinking that her expertise would help them understand the relics better. The brothers carefully gathered some of the smaller items and notes to show her Dot when Mrs. Clark arrived at the church. Her eyes widened with surprise and delight. She walked slowly through the main hall, examining the worn walls, broken pews, and scattered debris. Finally, Liam and Noah led her down the narrow staircase into the hidden room. "Oh my goodness," she whispered, stepping inside. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched the delicate books and statues. "I never imagined anything like this. These relics are remarkable. They tell a story that has been waiting for generations to be heard." Liam and Noah watched her as she carefully picked up a letter and read it aloud. The room was filled with her soft voice, bringing the past to life. She described the letters, the journals, and the carefully preserved objects, explaining their historical significance. The brothers listened intently, learning things they had never noticed before. "This is incredible," Noah said. "We had no idea the room held so much history. It's amazing to see it explained by someone who understands it." Mrs. Clark smiled warmly. "You have stumbled upon a treasure, not just of objects, but of life stories. This room tells us how people lived, what they valued, and how they connected with one another. It is a record of love, care, and community." After that day, the brothers decided to share their discovery with the townspeople. They wanted everyone to see the hidden room and learn about the history of the church. Liam and Noah began organizing guided visits, explaining the significance of the objects and reading letters and passages from the journals. Children listened with wide eyes, fascinated by stories of festivals, celebrations, and everyday life from long ago. Adults were equally captivated, remembering their own childhoods or imagining how life had been generations before. The church slowly transformed from a quiet, abandoned building into a place of learning and curiosity. Liam and Noah started restoring parts of the structure. Broken windows were replaced, ivy was carefully removed, and damaged walls were repaired. The sound of hammering and sawing filled the air as the brothers worked diligently to bring the church back to life. Noah focused on cataloging and preserving the relics in the hidden room. He created a detailed record of each object, describing its appearance, condition, and historical significance. Liam worked on the physical restoration of the church, repairing pews, polishing wood, and cleaning the stone floors. Together, they ensured that the church became not only a place of history, but also a welcoming space for visitors. One afternoon, as the brothers worked on the altar, Mrs. Clark suggested they hold a small exhibition to show the town what they had discovered. It would be wonderful if the people could experience the hidden room and see the stories for themselves, she said. Liam agreed enthusiastically. "Yes, it's not just our inheritance. This is part of the town's heritage. Everyone should be able to appreciate it." The brothers spent days preparing for the exhibition. They arranged the objects carefully, making sure each one was visible and protected. They created small descriptions for the items, explaining their history and significance. Letters and journals were displayed on stands, allowing visitors to read passages safely. Even the smallest statues and trinkets were organized in a way that told a story. When the day of the exhibition arrived, the church was filled with excitement. Villagers of all ages entered the building, curious to see the hidden treasures. Children gasped as they saw tiny toys and carved figures, while adults marveled at the letters and journals that revealed the lives of people from the past. Mrs. Clark guided the visitors through the hidden room, reading stories aloud and explaining the significance of the objects. Liam and Noah stood nearby, watching as their neighbors connected with the past in ways they had never imagined. The church, once silent and abandoned, was now alive with voices, laughter, and wonder. One elderly man, who had lived in the town all his life, approached the brothers. "I never knew the church had so many stories hidden beneath it," he said. "This is a gift. You have brought our history back to life." Liam smiled. We were lucky to find it, and now we want everyone to see it. These stories belong to the town, not just to us." Noah added, "It's amazing to think that these people planned this long ago, so that someone in the future could understand their lives. We are just the ones who found it at the right time." As the exhibition continued, the brothers realized that the church had become more than just a building or a collection of relics. It was a place where generations could meet, learn, and feel connected. The hidden room had sparked a renewed interest in the town's history, inspiring people to explore their own family stories and memories. Over the next few weeks, more visitors came to the church. Teachers brought students for educational tours, and families came to see the relics and hear the stories. The brothers organized workshops where children could draw, write, and create their own small artifacts inspired by the past. The church had become a center of learning, creativity, and community connection. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Liam and Noah sat on the steps outside the church, reflecting on how far they had come. "I never imagined our inheritance would become something like this," Liam said. "It's more than a building. It's a place that brings people together." Noah nodded. "And it's only the beginning. There is still so much we can learn from the hidden room. More objects, more stories, and more lessons for us and the town." The brothers decided to continue restoring the church, making it a safe and welcoming place for everyone. They repaired the bell tower, which had long been leaning dangerously, and cleaned the garden around the building. They even planted flowers near the entrance, adding color and life to the area. The church, which had once been forgotten, now stood proudly, a symbol of history, care, and renewal. As they worked, the hidden room remained a place of quiet discovery. Liam and Noah continued to explore its contents, finding new letters, books, and objects each day. Every item revealed more about the people who had lived in the town before them, their hopes, dreams, and daily lives. The brothers felt a growing sense of responsibility to protect the relics and share their stories with the community. One afternoon, while examining a small box, Liam discovered a note tucked inside a book. It read, "To those who find this room, cherish the past, honor the present, and share the stories with those who come after. The lives remembered here belong to everyone." Noah read the note and smiled. "That's exactly what we are doing. We are honoring the past and sharing it with everyone who visits." Liam nodded. "It feels good to know that the people who created this room planned for someone like us to continue their work. We are part of a long chain of care and memory." As the weeks turned into months, the church became a beloved part of the town. Visitors returned regularly, and the brothers organized new programs and activities. They held storytelling sessions, craft workshops, and history lessons inspired by the relics. The hidden room, once forgotten, became the heart of the church, connecting the present with the past in meaningful ways. Liam and Noah knew that the church had given them more than just an inheritance. It had given them purpose, a connection to history, and a way to bring people together. The hidden room had taught them that every object, every letter, and every memory had value, and that preserving them was a way of honoring the lives that came before. As the sun set one evening, the brothers stood at the entrance of the church, looking at the restored building and the garden filled with flowers. Children played nearby, families chatted, and the church bell rang gently in the distance. Liam and Noah smiled at each other, knowing that the journey of discovery and restoration was far from over. But proud of what they had accomplished so far, the church, once abandoned and forgotten, had become a place of life, learning, and connection. And it all started with a hidden room full of relics that told the stories of the people who had built and cherished the church for generations. The sun rose slowly over the small town, bathing the church in a warm, golden light. Liam and Noah stood at the entrance, looking at the building they had worked so hard to restore. Over the past months, the church had transformed from a crumbling, abandoned place into a lively center of history, learning, and community. But the brothers knew their work was not finished. There were still stories to uncover, objects to preserve, and memories to share. Inside, the hidden room remained the heart of the church. Every shelf, table, and corner held relics from the past: letters, journals, books, and carved figures that told the lives of generations gone by. The brothers continued to explore carefully, discovering new items each day. Liam opened an old leather-bound book, its pages delicate and filled with faded ink. The story inside described a young boy helping his family during a festival, learning about kindness, patience, and community. Noah, meanwhile, examined a small collection of glass jars containing dried flowers and herbs. Each jar had a note describing its purpose and significance. Some were used in celebrations, others for teaching, and a few for healing. The brothers realized that even the smallest objects had meaning and deserved to be remembered. As the town became aware of the church's hidden treasures, more visitors arrived. Families came to see the relics and hear stories of the past. Children listened attentively to tales of festivals, weddings, and daily life from long ago. Teachers brought students to the church for lessons in history, culture, and values. The church had become more than a building. It was a place where generations could meet, learn, and feel connected. Liam and Noah also began hosting workshops in the church. Children were encouraged to draw, write, and create small objects inspired by the past. Families participated in activities that taught cooperation, creativity, and appreciation for history. The church became a space of learning and growth, connecting the past with the present in meaningful ways. One afternoon, while examining the hidden room, Liam discovered a small wooden box tucked behind a stack of journals. Inside was a beautifully carved figurine of a family, with intricate details showing the parents and two children holding hands. Attached to it was a note: "May this family guide and inspire those who come after. Remember the value of love, care, and togetherness." Noah read the note and smiled. "This is exactly what we are doing. We are sharing these stories and lessons with everyone who visits." Liam nodded. "It's incredible to think that these people thought of the future, about someone like us finding this room and understanding their lives. We are part of their legacy now." The brothers continued to restore the church, working on the final details. They repaired the bell tower, which had been leaning dangerously for decades. The bell, once silent, now rang out gently, calling villagers to visit. Broken pews were mended and polished. The altar was restored, and the floors were cleaned and repaired. Sunlight poured through the new windows, casting colorful patterns across the stone floors. The church had truly come alive again. The town began holding events at the church, celebrating its history and the community that had grown around it. Seasonal festivals returned, with music, dancing, and food shared by neighbors. Children played in the garden, and families gathered in the main hall to hear stories from the hidden room. The church, once abandoned, was now a symbol of unity, learning, and hope. One evening, Liam and Noah stood outside the church, watching the villagers leave after a storytelling session. Children waved and laughed, their eyes sparkling with wonder and curiosity. Parents thanked the brothers for sharing the church's treasures and preserving the town's history. "This is more than I ever imagined," Liam said softly. "The church is alive again, not just as a building, but as a place of connection and memory." Noah smiled. "And it will keep growing. People will continue to learn, share, and create new memories here. The hidden room has started a chain that will continue for generations." The brothers decided to create a permanent catalog of the relics and stories, ensuring that every object and note was documented for future generations. They photographed the items, wrote detailed descriptions, and organized the journals and letters by date and topic. This catalog would allow visitors to explore the hidden room even more deeply, understanding the significance of each object and the people behind them. As the cataloging continued, Liam and Noah discovered that the hidden room held more than just physical objects. It contained lessons about life, kindness, and community. They read stories of people helping one another, celebrating together, and passing on wisdom to the next generation. The brothers realized that these lessons were just as important as the objects themselves. One day, a teacher named Mrs. Evans brought her students to the church for a history lesson. The children were fascinated by the hidden room and asked countless questions about the objects and the stories behind them. Liam and Noah guided them through the room, explaining each item and sharing stories from the journals and letters. The children listened carefully, inspired by the lives of those who had lived long ago. "This is amazing," one student said. "It's like stepping back in time. I can imagine what life was like here." Liam smiled. "That's exactly what we want you to feel. The church and this hidden room are here to teach us, connect us, and inspire us." Noah added, "And remember, history is not just about the past. It's about how we use what we learn to live better today and care for the people around us." As months passed, the church became a center for the town. People of all ages visited regularly, learning, creating, and celebrating together. The hidden room remained a special place, a quiet space where visitors could reflect on the stories of the past and draw inspiration for the future. Liam and Noah continued to preserve the relics and share the lessons they held, ensuring that the treasures of the past were never forgotten. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, the brothers stood together in the garden outside the church. Flowers they had planted bloomed brightly, and the sound of laughter and conversation drifted from inside. The church had transformed completely, from a forgotten ruin into a vibrant space filled with life, learning, and memory. Liam spoke softly. "I never thought an inheritance could be so much more than just property. This church has given us purpose, history, and a way to bring people together." Noah nodded. "And the hidden room has taught us that every object, every story, and every life has value. We are lucky to have discovered it, and now it's part of our mission to protect and share it." As darkness fell, the brothers looked at the church with pride. The bell tower stood tall, the windows glowed warmly, and the hidden room remained a treasure trove of memories. The town had embraced the church, and the stories of the past were alive again, guiding and inspiring a new generation. The brothers knew that their journey with the church was far from over. There would always be more stories to discover, more objects to preserve, and more lessons to learn. But they were ready. They had become the guardians of history, the bridge between the past and the present, and the keepers of a hidden world filled with wonder and meaning. In the quiet of the night, as the stars shone above the hills, Liam and Noah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The church, once abandoned and forgotten, had found its place again in the hearts of the town, and the hidden room, with all its relics and stories, had become a symbol of hope, connection, and the enduring value of history. The brothers knew that the future would hold challenges, but they also knew that the church and the hidden room would continue to inspire, teach, and bring joy to everyone who came. They had turned a collapsed, forgotten building into a place of life, learning, and wonder. And that, they realized, was the greatest inheritance anyone could ever receive. Liam and Noah smiled at each other, standing under the warm glow of the church lights. The journey had begun with a collapsed building and a hidden staircase. It had led to a discovery of treasures, stories, and lessons from the past. Now, the church was no longer abandoned. It was alive, vibrant, and full of promise, a new beginning for the town, for the church, and for the two brothers who had been chosen to reveal its secrets. And as they walked back inside, ready to welcome the next group of visitors, Liam whispered to Noah, "We found more than relics. We found the heart of this town, and it will keep beating for generations to come." Noah nodded, feeling the truth of those words. Together, they stepped into the church, knowing that their journey with history, memory, and community was only just beginning.